Well, we are off to a great start because our first stop is with Mr. Fritz Fashing, who's going to tell us about spontaneous speakers. Fritz.
Thank you, Connie. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to be opening up tonight's festivities. In fact, I can think of no better way to open up tonight's festivities than to open up a bottle of champagne, because Spontaneous Speakers indeed has something to celebrate. We have been around for 40 years. That's right, 4 decades. So if you'll bring your glasses forward, I'll be more than happy to. Oh, gee, I guess that's not going to be possible, is it? Well, I'll just have to finish this bottle myself. Meanwhile, let me tell you a little bit about our club. We are the most aptly named club, I think, in all of Toastmasters, because we do everything spontaneously, from soup to nuts, from Toastmaster to timer. Nothing is pre-planned. Well, almost nothing, but we'll get to that. I think the best way to explain what our club's like is to tell you how I first encountered our club. I'd been a Toastmaster for all of almost 2 months when my mentor came to me and asked me what I was doing on this coming Sunday. Having nothing planned, I said nothing, and she invited me to come to a new Toastmaster club. I thought, well, that sounds like fun. I've been enjoying myself at Desert Toasters. I'll come join you at this new club. And she said, good, we'll be carpooling. We'll be going up to Calamasa, and we're going to the Bob's Big Boy in Calamasa, which is where the club holds its meetings. Now, Bob's Big Boy, if you've never been there, is just your basic diner, but they had a really nice big room, perfect for our purposes. It could seat a good 30 to 40 people or more comfortably, with still room for a lectern and an ability for everybody to get up and give their speeches. So we set up the room, put out the agendas, and then the Vice President of Education, whom I just met, reaches into her purse, pulls out these flashcards. She spreads them out and says, pick one. And I said, okay. As I drew one, I said, what's this for? She said, well, this is your role for tonight. Oh, yes, spontaneous speakers. We do everything spontaneously, including your roles. So I looked at my card and it said evaluator number 2. Well, I had only just given an icebreaker. I wasn't ready to be evaluating anybody's speeches. And I told them so. Not a problem, she said, draw another card. So I took a deep breath, drew another card. This time I drew Toastmaster. Yes, first time I was ever at Spontaneous Speakers, and now I'm Master of Ceremonies. That was quite an introduction. And it's been a fun ride ever since. Now, we can't draw cards anymore. So if I can get the screen share to work, I'll show you what we do. See, there. We put everybody's role on this little wheel. And then we go from picture to picture and we say, spin the wheel. And it gets done. And when this is your turn, you will be tonight's first evaluator. Next person comes up, and so on and so forth. You never know what you're going to get. You might also be an evaluator. You might be Toastmaster. You might be timer. You do a joke or an inspiration to start the meeting. And all this is done before the meeting begins. So all our members are asked to come 15 minutes early, and guests are asked to do the same so that we can draw and have all the slots filled. You say, that's great, but what about speeches? We do the same thing with speeches. You may not know you're giving a speech. In fact, you're not even going to know what speech you're going to give, because part of the Toastmaster's job is to give you your topic. But don't worry, you're given a whole 60 seconds to get your thoughts together before presenting it. So it's not quite as tough as table topics. And then you only have to speak from 4 to 6 minutes. Fine. But what if you want to get your pathways going? Well, we've got you covered there too. If you're a member, all you need to do is let the Vice President of Education know that you have a prepared speech to give, and they'll put you on the agenda. So we'll only have one speaker slot open for the spontaneous part of the evening. The other speaker slot will already be filled. The rest of it is still the same, spontaneous all the way. I'll give you an example of how it works. One meeting, I was a speaker, and the Toastmaster, it happened to be President's Day weekend, says to me, who was the better president, George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? Fortunately, I didn't even need 60 seconds because I had just finished reading a biography of George Washington, a man whom I always thought was our greatest president, our first president, just an amazing fellow. And I was ready to dazzle them with my brilliance. Later on, in table topics, I was ready to baffle them with my, well, you all know how that finishes up. Because in table topics, everybody gets a chance at spontaneous speakers. Now, you may be in a club with a lot of people. You may be in a club where everybody shows up each week, and you may or may not have a role. You may or may not get to be able to speak at all, and you'll have to wait till next week. Not so with us. We have 2 table topics sessions. That's where we have 2 table topic masters. So the table topic masters, after the speeches are given, will take over just like in every other meeting. And they will call on half the attending people and give them their questions. And the only requirement on calling people is that they call table topics master number 1, because indeed, everybody gets a table topics at spontaneous speakers. Now, that's not all the table topics master has to do. That would be enough in most clubs, but not for us. We also have the table topics master do a short evaluation of each of the speakers. Nothing much, just a sentence or 2 to let them know how they did, and also to remind everybody of what they had spoken on, because they will be voting for the best table topic speech for table topics 1 and table topics 2. That's what we give our awards to. Now, I know for a lot of you out there, this is not new. There are many past members. There are many people that have joined our club as honored guests. And 40 years, if that doesn't tell you how much fun my telling you about it is just not going to be enough. 4 decades. Heck, that's more than most of you or any of you probably have been a Toastmaster. And it's probably more than a few of you have even been. So we've been doing things right for a long time. I invite you all to come join us. We meet on the 2nd and 4th Sunday of every month. And of course, like everybody else, we do so virtually. And we'll probably be meeting virtually for quite a while because sadly, it looks like Bob's Big Boy did not survive the pandemic. It has a fence around it now, I'm told, and every indication is that they won't be reopening. We may end up staying virtually for most of the time. We are talking about it. We're coming up with new ideas on how to grow our club. And because we want to be President's Distinguished, we've added the ability to give your pathway speeches as they come along. So you don't have to be a seasoned Toastmaster. Like I say, I was only 2 months in, and our latest member is only 3 months in. Anybody can join, anybody can have fun. You just have to be willing to spread your wings. You have to be willing to challenge yourself a little bit more than most clubs. Because as I say, everything is spontaneous. So I would like to say thank you to all of our members, past, present, and to those of you who are future members. Please come join us. Please be a part of our Sunday nights. And thank you so much for listening. Honey.
Thank you, Fritz, for your presentation. You mentioned about future members. That is one purpose of us having this for our Speakers Bureau, is that we will perhaps you will find it intriguing as you hear about these various clubs and want to go visiting and perhaps actually join them. Tom and I have been to Spontaneous Speakers a few times, and it is indeed enjoyable and gives you that much needed practice in the impromptu speaking. We know that that is something that we use day in and day out in our lives. So thank you, Fritz.